We thank you for joining us this evening. I'm going to call the May 26th Valley Park School District Board of Education meeting to order at 7:34. If you would, please stand with me as we say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This time I'm going to ask Vice President Del Steele to please go over our Valley Park School District mission statement.
Our mission is to provide a supportive, personalized environment in which students will grow strong intellectually, emotionally, physically, and socially today in preparation for tomorrow.
Thank you, Della. We'll begin our meeting with item 2.01, the debt service and bond update from Mr. Lorenzo Boyd from Taxable. Wow. Everybody's right up there.
I'm not used to being the leader. Used to be cleanup. The clicker's up here, right? So I'll see. Let's see how this works first.
If you'd like to, you can feel free to stand closer to the
Okay.
screen if you want to.
I'm gonna test my eyes. How about that? And I did that all the way through, and I actually I need to go back. Go back. Oh, I see it now. Okay, good evening, everyone. It's good to be in front of you guys finally. And it's been a long time since I attended an in-person board meeting. I must say that. So it's really good. So what I have for you today is just kind of an overview of the district's current debt, where the debt service levy stands at this point, and the opportunities that you may have in the future. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay. I think the name is wrong. It says Lorenzo Boyd, but most people call him Denzel. I'll just forgive them. Minor mistake. So right now, Valley Park School District has outstanding 4 different series of bonds. You have your 2010, which we call qualified school construction bonds. You may have heard me refer to them as Q Schoolies. There's about 1,590,000 of those bonds. Those are basically zero interest bonds, so those are non-callable. So those should potentially never be called because you're essentially paying zero interest on those bonds. Then you have your taxable general obligation refunding bonds. They were originally issued for 1,340,000. There's about 610,000 of those remaining as of today. Then you have your 2017 new money bonds. Those were issued in the original principal amount of 9,485,000. There's 9,235,000 remaining. They have a call date of 3/1/2025. And then the most recent transaction that we did just about 5 months ago was a refunding issue that was for 6,435,000, which we have outstanding 5,930,000. So right now you have 17,365,000 in outstanding general obligation debt, with call dates ranging from 2025 to 2028. So right now, as you know, state of Missouri, the debt limitation, they've always talked about increasing this. When I first started, the debt limitation was actually at 10%. Shows like date myself. I couldn't believe this is my 29th year in financial services. I know I only look 29, but believe it or not, this is.
Oh, I believe it.
We
were here together.
I believe it. Exactly. After 4 years in the military, this is a breeze. So when I first started, the debt limitation was about 10%. Now it's at 15%. They've always talked about increasing that to perhaps 20%. So right now, based on your most recent assessed valuation, which has a 15% debt limit, your actual legal debt limit is now 33.3 million. Just kind of rounding right there. And that excludes any, state assessed railroad utility valuations and what's available in your debt service fund. So without those two amounts, you're at about 33.3 million. So with 17,365,000 of debt on your books right now, what we call your legal debt margin is about 15.9 million. You're going to pay off on March 1st, 2022, a total of 1,395,000 of debt. So if you round it up to, let's say 16 million, then you're gonna have probably about 17.4 million next year of what we call legal debt margin based on what you're paying off in your assessed valuation. And that doesn't include any increase that you may receive in your assessed valuation between now and then. I know this is kind of hard to read, but those basically on the first page was a summary of basically all these bond issues. This just basically summarizes those particular bond issues by par amount. So if you look at the actual Hugh Scoobies, as I say, their final maturity is 2025. Those qualified school construction bonds. They have an interest rate of 5.5%, but you're essentially paying no interest on those. And then you have your 2014 Bs. Those actually have a final maturity of 2024. And you can see the different maturities right there. And then you have your 2017 As. Now we'll go back to the 2014 Bs. Those were funding of your 2010 leasehold bonds. Then you have your 2017 As, which those have a final maturity of 2037. Those are new money bonds for a little over 9.4 million. You have 9.2 left, and you can see the amortization schedule that's according to those bonds. And then those have, I mentioned, have a call date 3/1/2025. And then you have the issue that we did late last year, December, which we funded the 2014 As, and those have a final maturity of 2033, I'm sorry. And the call dates right here, most people ask, when can we call bonds again? That's really one of the first questions. Well, about 2 years ago, they took away the ability to advance refund bonds. So you have to wait until within 90 days of your call date now. But there's tremendous motion in Congress to change that back to where you can advance refund bonds again to more than 90 days to the call date. But right now, you have to wait to within 90 days of your call date. So for instance, with the 2017 As, with that call date being 3/1/2025, you couldn't call that on a tax exempt basis until December of 2024. So within 90 days of the call date. And as you can see, those interest rates are if you can refund that right now, and they gave you the ability to advance refund bonds, this would be a good candidate because it would be short escrow. And the interest rates are, right there, are much lower at this time. I mean, interest rates are the lowest they've been since 1952. I'm in a school, so I'm gonna try to remember this. Somebody's gonna fact check me. I think that was the Truman administration going into the Eisenhower administration. So that's a long time ago, from 1952 to 1953. So I think Eisenhower took over, came to office in 53. So then you have your 2020 bonds that I mentioned before. Those have a call date of 3/1/2028. So you couldn't refund those until December of 2027. This is basically a summary of all your, whereas the previous page was previous page was a summary of just your principal amount. This page right here, this next page, is a summary of principal and interest. So it includes the principal and interest on an annual basis and on a calendar year basis of all those bonds. So you can see there that your debt service is pretty smooth from 2023 to 2037. You're paying about, on average, about 1,350,000 of debt each year of principal and interest. This is your levy report. This is what we look at in terms of Susan. We talk about this quite often in terms of the levy report. So going from left to right, you set your tax year. You set your tax rate in 1 year. So let's take a look at 2021. So you set your tax rate in 2021 in September of 2021, and that is to pay your debt service in 2022. So going from left to right, then you have your assessed valuation. You see, you guys had almost a 10% growth in assessed valuations there. This past year, your debt service tax rate is 94.1 cents. We're using an average collection rate of 97.75. That's just basically a 5-year average, which is at the bottom in terms of 5-year average of your tax collections. That includes delinquent and current taxes. And then we have your state assessed railroad utilities of 38,000. That is an average as well. And you can see there at the bottom, that revenue that's placed into the debt service fund, that's just basically a 5-year average of what we put into the debt service fund from 2016 through 2020. with last year being put in about 43,000. And that's usually done pro rata in terms of your levy. And then you have your total revenue based on all those numbers, total revenue that you're receiving. And you'll see that your debt service is you're getting about $2 million, let's just say next year, 2022. And your debt service is about 1.9 million. So your required levy is 85 cents. And as you can see there, your required levy is going down because you're actually bringing in more revenue than the amount of debt that you have on the books. So the long and short of it is that number to the far right, green is always good. And in the state of Missouri, you can actually, if your debt service fund balance goes above 100%, you have to do one of two things. You have one of two things. You either, or one of three things, I should say. You either have to use some of that fund balance to pay off some of your outstanding bonds. So you can actually take, so if we look at where it says 126%, you have 1.7 million there right now. You could take, let's say, a $500,000 and pay off and put it into an escrow funds to pay off those bonds early. So they'll be legally off your books and the money will be held in escrow. And you can just take $500,000 to pay off bonds early. That's one. That's the defeasance. Or you can lower your debt service levy, which is, like I said, no one really does that these days because you're always going to be looking to, 3 to 5 years, most school districts are looking to issue new debt because they always have needs. And then, or the third option is to put a new money issue on the ballot where we can soak up some of that fund balance right there. Because as you can see, you're building up your fund balance just kind of each year, about, let's say, 750,000. And that's pretty constant until about 2034, where it's only about a little over $500,000. And as you see, I think this is fairly conservative because I'm using 0% growth. So think about that. 1 year you had, it says 17%. Yeah, 7%, 17%, and then almost 10%. And I'm using 0%, so that's going to grow probably much more. So that's very conservative in terms of these numbers. If they have any questions, so forth. So with that, what I want to take a look at, okay, is what if the school district wants to do something next year in terms of a bond issue? I think the last time I was here, I was not here, but I think we were on Zoom, I think, was it in October or so? I showed you 10.5 million that you can issue at no tax rate increase. Well, with that assessed valuation growth and then where rates are right now, and that's really conservative. I just used a flat interest rate of 3.5%. I think in October, so what are we, 8 months from October? Your number went from 10.5 million to 13 million easily and no tax rate increase. No tax rate increase. And I think that number is conservative, but I think, just keeping you guys in a good position where probably in 3 to 5 years, you'll be looking at something else. So that's giving you the room to do that as well. Because if you were to issue, I've been doing bond issues for the past 2 months now. If you were to issue a 20-year bond issue at today's rates, I'm using 3.5% because obviously, June 2022 is what, a year away. You'll go to the voters in April. You wouldn't be able to issue those bonds until June or so. Let's just say June. So that's a year away. Who knows what interest rates are going to be at that point? So I'm just raising those interest rates up. But if you were actually to issue bonds right now, you would be probably right around 2.2%. So that's how low rates are on a 20-year financing. I mean, that's cheaper than you can do a home mortgage. So let's hope that interest rates stay the same. And I'll say this, over the past month, interest rates have been going down even further. So especially the past 2 weeks, we've seen interest rates go down about 5 basis points. And you guys have a pretty good rating in terms of your, I forgot to mention that. So you see your underlying rating. The underlying rating right now is at A+. So the school district could issue where you wouldn't have to, because you're not going to go above 100% until next year. So if you don't do something next year, you have to take one of those 3 options. So your fund balance will actually go up in 2022. So when you do your tax rate in 2022 and you do nothing, you're going to have to do one of those 2 options because you didn't put a new money issue on the ballot. You're going to have to either lower your debt service or pay off some bonds. But if you go to the voters in April of 2022, you keep your tax rate the same, you can get 13 million of bonds at no tax rate increase for various projects in the school district. And this is what your levy will look like after the 13 million. And this is assuming you get all 13 million at once. Now, you may choose to do 6.5 million and then 6.5 million 2 years later. But for giggles, I just assume this will issue all 13 million at once, and you'll see there, that's still giving you some room to issue, to put something else on the ballot conservatively in 2026 to 27. Because you can see there where it goes to green again, and I'm still using 0% growth. This shows where your fund balance is gonna grow by 2027, where you'll have to do something else at that point again. But that's about the time you probably will be looking again to put something else 2027, that's 5 years from now. So I want to kind of give you some room to at least, get your capital improvement plan in place and then actually put some more projects together so that you have more money available to you and keep that tax rate the same. And I believe that is it. My presentation. I will have any questions. So was that good news? So folks, whenever I come to a board meeting, I'm either bringing money or saving money.
I don't know, sometimes you cost us money.
I've never cost you money.
Hey, the 13 million you have down, as possible with a no tax rate, that's out of the 15 million bonding capacity we would have, so we would still be under by
By 2.5.
little about 2.5 million,
Yeah.
2.4,
Yeah.
something like that.
Exactly right.
Okay.
And then if you recall, I took it down. But you're still gonna be paying off bonds too. So you're under like 2.5 million at that point next year, but remember,
Every year
some
you
of your
pay something.
early pages and that you're paying off some of your principal each year,
So
so.
continues that 2.5 ways, you'd still be maybe the next year like 3.
Yeah, exactly, and then
With
by
capacity.
2027, with assessed valuation growth and what you're paying off, you may be at another 9 million or so.
Right, because it's been at 15 for quite some time.
Right.
I know they talked about 20, but. And you mentioned the 6.565 with the rate that is now, or possibly you'd be better off to do the full 13.
Especially if you can issue the bonds, especially if interest rates where they are. I was just
Yeah.
having this conversation with another issuer, with interest rates, if you reasonably expect to spend your proceeds within 3 years.
Right.
Which is what the IRS code is.
Right.
Reasonable expectation. That reasonable expectation is, when they say reasonably, that means 85%. So if you think you can spend all 13 million in 3 years under reasonable expectation, you might as well take advantage of it and get those low rates.
Yeah, otherwise your second 6.5 could be, you have no idea.
100 basis points higher.
Yeah, at least.
So that's where we are in terms of just kind of, and then there's no real fundamental difference in rates between bank qualified and non-bank qualified paper. Bank qualified paper is anything under 10 million. There used to be a tremendous spread in terms of the interest rate between non-BC paper and BC paper, but right now it's pretty much nil because interest rates are just all the time once they're closed.
But do you think that if we did go for the 13 million, you think we could still get the 8+ rate?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
That means a lot when you sell them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, because I just sold an issue, just to kind of give you some perspective, even though interest rates are at all time historic lows. The last 2 issues that I've sold, they have been over 4 times oversubscribed. So, and I'll just tell you who it is. I just sold Norman School District bonds for 25 million, 26.5 million. And their, credit is not what you guys are, and they're overrun by they're taken over by the state, and they had all kinds of issues, possibly, with charter schools and
Sure.
superintendent. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
And we still got $80 million of orders for those bonds, 26.5 million
So
bonds.
They were in line.
So the interest, people are still thirsting, even though they're all-time low rates for the paper.
Yeah. Were they A+ also?
No, they're A-.
And Pete, we just had those bonds on our last bond call in the fall. Before when we went to
Yes.
refinance, it was confirmed again. That we were
Yeah.
still A+. So that's a recent, as 4 months ago, 5 months ago.
Yeah.
But that rating's accurate.
Okay.
Any other questions?
As always,
very much.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Denzel.
Renzo, thanks.
Good
Good to see you.
Yeah.
We couldn't do it without.
Yeah,
I'll give you a ride if you want.
I'll take one. All right, see you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Alright, 2.02, the early childhood update.
Yeah, so it is our pleasure tonight, Dr. Savage, Amy Hopper, and Susan Dawson are here to give an update on our early childhood programming. The board probably remembers earlier, I believe it was in February, we brought some recommendations to the board about how we would continue to provide accessible, viable, and thriving early childhood programming to the families in our community that seek it, so that we can continue to develop those students socially, emotionally, and academically, really at the critical stages of their development. And so Tad and Amy and Susan have been working really hard to continue to provide the high quality program that our community has come to expect. And they're going to share some updates on some of the efforts they've made and where we currently are with programming at this point, getting ready for the 21-22 school year. So I will turn it over to that. Amy, want to take it away?
Okay, good evening, everyone. So yes, I'll just give you an update of where enrollment stands, as well as the program changes that we're looking to implement for the next school year. So just to refresh your memory, right now we have 4 offerings for families. We have 2 classrooms, the Wonder and the Explore class, that are multi-age classrooms. We have 1 class that is specifically for pre-K students, those that will be going to kindergarten the following year. That's the Discover class. And then we have a peer model class that allows us to have some spaces available for families that meet that financial need based upon family size and income. Currently, we have 1 full-time person that is employed, and that's myself as a teacher and director of the program. We have 2 certified part-time teachers, and then we have 4 teacher assistants that help to help the program throughout the day. So in February, the recommendations that were brought to the board and then approved, that we would start off enrollment for this year with 2 classrooms, 1 multi-age classroom, as well as one multi-age classroom and 1 that's geared towards the pre-K students. Right now, if you can, well, first of all, with our numbers that we were looking to help the program maintain a fiscally responsible method of enrolling and being able to then look at the program cost and then compare that to what we were bringing in as revenue. We were looking to enroll 20 students that were going to be in the pre-K class, the Discover class, 20 students that would be in that multi-age class. And then out of those 20 students, we were looking for at least 20 of them to be commit to a full day schedule. So in the orange on the slide, you can see right now, as of last Friday, our enrollment numbers, we have approximately 9 students that are enrolled in the pre-K class, 7.5 in the multi-age class, and then that takes us to the number of full day students that we have staying, and right now that's approximately 9 students. Looking at different schedules, we allow parents to choose a 2, 3, or 5 day schedule, and that's where we would get those numbers that are reflected there. Dr. Dilge and Susan have been working on just document that would take us through enrollment. We started that in April, just to look at how the trend is with enrollment, as well as what type of full-time equivalency that enrollment would equal out to. This gives you a picture of how things have been going for the past month. Right now, we have approximately 24 students that are enrolled in our morning class. And when we look at the full-time equivalency, that looks at about 16.5 students a day that are enrolled, 16.8. If I'm looking at the number of students that are staying full day, we have a total of 13 that are enrolled, and every day it's about 9.4 students that are committing. So looking at that full-time equivalency, we have about 9 staying full day, approximately 17 in the morning. This document will continue to update, and every Friday I'm sending the figures over to Susan Dawson to then put into our spreadsheet so that we can track the enrollment and then see, where we would have openings and where we would need to consider putting families on a wait list. We're going to continue to update this document over the summer. Historically, we have families that do enroll throughout the summer and even into early August. So that will show us the trend with the enrollments. Looking at the past few years, we just looked at the numbers of students enrolled in May for the past several years. And as you can see, for our total number at this point, we're fairly close to where we've been the past several years, not counting last year when we were not in session because of the pandemic. But in the 2 previous years before that, we're about right where we were in those years, based upon the end of May enrollments. Okay, and then looking at the total number of students that we have enrolled at this point as of May 21st, a total of 24 students that have enrolled. We're doing the cost analysis. If we kept the staff members that we have looked at, we have a need for at this point, which would include 1 full-time certified teacher / director, 1 part-time certified teacher, and 1 teacher assistant. We're also adding a parent educator into the cost. So the staffing expenditures would include all 4 of those individuals. The revenue that we would take in from the number of students that we have currently enrolled, which is 24 students, and then what we would be looking at as a loss at this point.
So that is just so, if somebody couldn't see that online, that's a $104,000 loss
That's
at those numbers.
correct, yes. Some things that we've been doing to try to get the word out, not only that, we have a program, but that we're enrolling for the fall and for next school year. I've worked with Jamie Gass, our public relations, and she has helped to update the website. We had some feedback from families that it was not user-friendly. So we have taken that and totally revamped the website, as well as just making things more readily available right there to families that are looking for that information. Since we are not able to have families in the program right now to do tours and to get that personalized feel of what our program offers, we have created a virtual tour that's on the website as well as on the district page. Jill Elder, one of our teachers, spearheaded that, and it turned out fabulously because of all the children that we have included in there. Increased social media presence, just not only on the Facebook page, but then also as the district is putting out messages to families. We've also included early childhood information. The district is also using the text and phone blast to advertise and remind parents that we are enrolling for next year. The principals, not only in the elementary, but district-wide, are promoting the program within their newsletters and the emails that go out to families. We have a new banner that's going to be placed on the side of the early childhood building, and that will hopefully give those passing down 141 the visual that they'll need. It's on the marquee as well that we're unrolling, but with that, the way that it flashes through various messages, that will be a more stable way to advertise that we have enrollment. I've also contacted some area apartment complexes and asked the leasing offices to promote our program, and they have made the information accessible to their families that reside there. One of our current families, one of the parents, she asked to present some information about the program, not only as an educator herself, but then as a parent that has been part of the program. She presented some information to our PTO meeting that was held in April, and just let families know, you know, the quality program that we have, and if they had any questions, they could talk to her or seek more information from us. We have some flyers that are have been used recently that are not only promoting the program, but been giving people an opportunity to access the information a little bit easier by putting a QR code on the flyer. I know a lot of people that, you know, if the information is more readily available to them, then they may be more interested right then and there as they're thinking about it. So what we're looking at this point for, as we get ready to start the school year in the fall, we have already began enrolling for the 2 classrooms, and we will continue to enroll for the pre-K and multi-age classrooms. This will have us hiring back 2 teachers as well as 1 teacher assistant at this time, and that is based upon the numbers of students that we have enrolled at this time. As we begin seeing an increase in numbers, we will look at adding additional staffing as necessary. As we're trying to grow the program and get back to a full enrollment in each class, we will have to utilize a wait list that's going to have us putting families on the list until there's a substantial number that will justify adding another staff member so that we can keep the program not only growing, but then also fiscally responsible. That may be a concern for some parents. They have to go on a wait list because they might need to know and have that confirmation right away that they have somewhere for their child to attend. But at this point, that is how we will proceed with enrollment. We are also going to be utilizing the YMCA for our early and extended care part of the day. They will be taking over the enrollment as well as the supervision from the early part of the day from 7 to 8:15, and then the extended care is from 3 to 5:30 each evening. Families will have to enroll through the YMCA to be part of that if they wish to have their children in that part of the program, and then take care of their financial business through them versus us for that part of the day. We are going to be maintaining the peer model program that's in one of our classes that's run in conjunction with the special school district, and we will be able to keep that in place. And one other thing that we were attempting to start this year and hopefully grow our program with was to offer an early childhood summer camp. At this point, we did not have enough students enrolled to proceed with that plan for this year. To, again, looking at making the program fiscally responsible, we needed at least 8 students enrolled each week that it was offered. And we had approximately 3 students that were more or less picked and chose what weeks they wanted to attend. So it wasn't a full-time commitment throughout the whole summer. So we will keep that plan, try to revisit that during the next school year, get some information out to families so that they know to expect that will be an offering for next summer. And if there are any questions that we can address?
I have a question. So why are they giving the ability for people who have trouble paying for after-school care some kind of discount? Do you know?
I'm not certain about that.
I think it's important to know that, market it, if that's the case.
Okay,
Because I do think they do have some program that reduces the price.
okay.
But I'm not 100% sure. It's been a while since I used them.
I know there is a difference in cost for families if they, if they have to use that part of the program. But I'm not sure about the financial assistance they might provide.
So I have a question. So by using the YMCA, does that save us money? Or is that the way it's always been?
It does, well, because we don't have to staff those parts of the day, it will save money in those areas that right now we have to have at least 2 staff members for the early and extended part of the day for safety reasons and such, but
Ratios, right?
yes, so in that aspect, it will save the district money because we're not having to cover so many hours of the day.
Oh, my question was gonna piggyback on hers. Does that go? Or-
Go ahead.
Okay. Involved with the before school and after school, is that an area where we were losing money? Is that an area where we had more expenditures than we were bringing in? The before and after school program was?
Yes.
Okay.
And like I said, because we had
Yeah.
to staff with at least 2 staff members.
Oh, yeah, no,
Then,
I understand that.
yes.
I was just making sure that was one of the areas that we were losing money at.
I had a couple questions, but Tim, moved. Might be long. What's the break even? This numbers that you're showing in red, that's with the new staff, with what we have currently signed up. The new staffing numbers which currently have signed up.
That's correct.
So
So
what is the break even number of students we need to get that just flat? I don't care whether it's making money as long as it's not losing money. And then where does the new staffing, what is the change from the current staffing? So how many individuals do we lose for what you have planned now? And what do we lose? What's the difference?
sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, so in totality, during the 2021 school year, our current school year, we
Yeah.
have a total of 7 staff members. They're not all full-time, but in total,
Right.
we have 7 employees at the Early Childhood Center this current school year. As Amy explained on her one slide.
Yep.
21-22, based on the enrollment today, as we're sitting in this
Right.
room, it would be a total of 3 staff members.
And even with those 3, we still are in the red by 100 grand.
That is correct.
So my question is that to bring that to 0, I'm not looking to make money.
Mhm.
To bring that to 0, what is the head count that we need? This head count is 24. Right? That's what you said, right? Currently you got 24?
It's 24
20
students, but if we look at the full-time
Right,
equivalency.
full-time equivalency is much less.
Yes. it's
So,
60.
My question is what is that, what's the golden number we need?
Mhm.
I mean, we've got all these plans that she's putting out. Everybody's trying to beg for people to come and hotels and everywhere else. I just need to know how hard do we need to go? I mean, is it 10 more students, 20 more students? What is it to break even on this number? And then what it would be, how many more do we need to try to save the staff we have? Because, you know, we're losing people who've been here for a long time.
Sure. So Amy, do you want to flip back to, I think it's the second slide you had there? Because that's your break even number. Yeah. So Pete, the second slide in your presentation, that is the break even number for the current staffing, the 3 staff members.
2020,
Correct. 40 total as far as full-time.
okay, and so we're at 6.8, 16.8.
Yes.
Correct. So you're close to halfway there
Yeah, we're,
to break even.
yeah, we're not even halfway there.
And so,
We're at 24, right?
No,
you know,
No, 16.8 FTE.
Yeah, I see that. I see it for the PM, there's 9.4.
24 is just the number of children.
let's
Oh, no,
summarize.
I mean, right under there is
so on the last
9.4.
bullet, 20 of 40,
Okay,
you're at 9.4.
yeah,
So just about whichever section you want to look at, you're about halfway there.
And then the thing that you have to.
Yeah,
take
But that's
into account-
halfway there for 3 people.
Right.
Right,
because
not
you
even
have-
for the other 4.
To keep the other 4 people from losing their job, what does that number have to be, 60?
A lot. And so
So
that's
we've
what,
been running in the red for quite some time.
right. And I think Dr. Savage shared that previously, both
Yeah,
in
right.
February and previous, and
I
not
remember.
just red, significant red, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Right now, we're showing a current loss of 100 with hopes of that continuing to get better between now and August. But even 100 is actually significantly better than the losses.
Oh, yeah, I understand. But
Yes, sir.
do we know what this year's loss will be? Now that the close to this part of the school year,
Don't believe that that's not-
just off your head. No,
I want the-
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
that's
I hate
not
to
a
give
big
you
deal.
a
That's
bad
just,
number.
if you could just give it to us, what the,
May I clarify on this screen? So at the 20s, the 40 AM students and 20 of them staying in the PM, that would equip, we would need 4 staff members to staff at that level. So we would be picking up 1 more. Teaching
Gotcha.
assistant.
That's what I was gonna say, that's the other thing you have to keep in mind, is as the number of students go up, there are
Right.
ratios.
sure,
So then they have to go up, so then that's also gonna be in more expenditure,
right.
so it's gonna create more of a need before we still reach that.
Gotcha.
That break-even point.
Yeah, so,
That's correct.
all right, so with the plans you got now, which plan you got now, is we're looking at 100 grand, and this year we, not sure, but we'll find out what the actual loss was after the year's over. Okay, but I'm sure it's much more than 100.
Yes.
I can look at that and get it to Tim.
That's fine. That'd be great.
And I can put that in the Friday.
That'd be great, thanks.
Hey, can I follow up on that too? Has there been any word from federal or state sources on funding in terms of pre-K and the county? I mean, I've heard chatter, but
So the only things we've heard is nothing really actually directly to us. There have been 2 groups in the last 2 years that have tried to do different birth through K programs and collaboratives between the city and the county. At one point, they were hoping to get ballots on our initiatives on the ballot. None of those have come through. Obviously, earlier this year, the federal government said they were looking to fund 2 years worth of early childhood programming. But other than a speech from the federal government, no school district has heard anything about how that'll be funded, what it will go through, and then there's some questions about what requirements you may or may not have to meet to also get that funding if it does in fact come.
I know I've got a few questions. Were you done, Pete?
Oh, yeah,
Adam, you good? So one of the things that quickly comes to mind with the YMCA program is that these 3-year-olds that might be coming to before school or after school would automatically be with, possibly be with 5th graders, or would they be over in the early childhood area?
Correct. They would be separated.
Separated.
K through 5 program.
Awesome. So there's K through 5 and then there's pre-K.
Mhm.
That is great. I know it's more expensive, but if that's an area that we have to give up, I understand that. So as far as do you know, and I didn't send you this question before and I apologize. But whenever I saw this slide, it made me think in 2018, 2019, do you remember what the basic enrollment was? Was it half full, 3/4 full? Because you have on here that we had 14 full-time equivalent students and 18 enrolled by May. So do you remember what that ended up being, like what we ended up having at those times, roughly?
I have the presentation from that time open up.
Great.
It says that 2-day we had 5, 3-day we had 8, and 5-day we had 18.
Okay.
That was half day. Is that where you were?
I don't know what those equivalents would be.
Do you want a full day?
Yeah, what the full-time equivalent, which I don't think those are on that. I don't think those are.
They're not.
Yeah, we didn't do the full-time equivalent.
And that was a challenge we had. So in previous years, they were showing students
Numbers.
enrolled, but a student could be enrolled 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. And so
Yeah.
that's why we've gone to this full-time equivalent. because
It
that's
makes
the
a lot
only
more
way.
sense.
Right.
It makes a lot more sense. It's easier to compare apples to apples, because I'm just thinking the current of 16.8 that we have right now, compared to the other numbers, it looks good, unless if, those numbers we didn't, whatever it was, like, what are we going to be expecting as it's coming up? That expectation is huge, obviously, and I know that, July and August might be big times, especially for new families that are coming on. And it's really easy to sit and just talk about money, because that's a big part of what we do is money, and seeing that $100,000 in the hole if we don't do anything else, or if there's no other students that register, which I know there's gonna be more students that register. We just don't know how many. We can't forecast the future for that. As I've talked to you many times before about parents as teachers, that is, I've kind of said that was kind of our gateway drug to Valley Park. That's how we got introduced. And I know I've said it a few times to different people outside of board meetings, but that is why we stayed in Valley Park. Is because the Parents as Teachers program, we had every intention of leaving, and so for that, I wish that were more a part of this planning, as far as what we're seeing, because I believe it's integral to the early childhood program. Without it, I just think we don't see as many families. So compared to years before, what were the Parents as Teachers numbers this year compared to maybe the last year, the year before that? And I know we've had some crazy years, the last two, but could you just talk about the number of Parents as Teacher visits, or Parents as Teacher Educator visits that you've had? Who's been doing those? Just so everybody can kind of hear that. I know that
So this year, well, if I could preface this with, each year we have to do a final report for the state. And it does ask you to calculate the number of contacts you have with the families. So that was something that has already been completed. This year we had 122 contacts with families. And when the state looks at how they're going to fund your program, because there is an allocation that's presented to you, to your program each year, there is a higher amount that is reserved for what is considered higher need families. And that's 9 times out of 10, that's what the goal is of the program with many districts, is that you make your contact with your high needs families. So this year, like I said, a total of 122 visits, 80 of those were with high needs families. So if we're looking for what funding came in, that, a majority of it came from the high needs visits that we were able to do. Last year, we were able to make 188 contacts with families. And our high needs visits contacts at that time were less, but then, you're supposed to evaluate your program and see where can you pick up your visits, where can you fund your program with doing those high need visits. The majority of the time, those are the families that are needing the information that Parents as Teachers puts out as part of their curriculum and their program. But then we're also looking for families that, even if they don't fit that socioeconomic high need characteristic, students that could be coming to us that have potential delays. And this isn't a figure you asked for, but I was looking, we've had just this past year, I've helped families with 21 referrals, and 17 of those students, children/students, qualified for services that are now part of their early intervention. So that's a good, number in that we were able to identify those students before they come into the elementary school.
That's one of the greatest parts about parents as teachers.
This year, we had 2 parent educators, myself and Christy Weber. We were limited to doing, whether it be phone contact, or a Zoom contact with families, because of the restrictions that were put on us. I'm understanding next year, we are going to, the parents and teachers has said they will count either mode of delivery, whether your family still wants to stick to a virtual visit or if they want to do an in-person visit. So depending on how the restrictions for our district goes, we hope to be back into the homes and be doing those in-person visits. It's very hard to get that same connection and feeling from the families and the kids by just doing a Zoom call with them or
And
phone contact with them.
do you have any like goals as far as how many visits each of you two should have per year? Like, what are your goals for each year?
So that is something Susan and I have been looking at. There's a planning tool that the district will look at to see, this is our amount that's been allocated by the state, and based on that amount, this is how many families you can visit to receive the maximum funds. If we go over that amount, it's not guaranteed that we would receive that reimbursement, but then there are times that there is extra funds that they will reimburse.
But we don't know what that number is.
I don't have it right now, because we just turned in our 2021 report.
Yeah.
So it'll be something we work on for, getting it started for the next school.
So is it based off of our 2021 report that they make that number?
Yes, but we've talked to DESE, early childhood staff, and they have instructed us to put on our report that we would like to restructure our program and add a parent educator so that we can, and with that being said, we would like additional allocations from the state. So that was put on a report that was just completed. One thing that Susan and I have looked at as far as the fine print goes, a first year parent educator, if whomever we move into that position is going to be a first year educator, they will be limited to the number of visits that they can do because they have additional training to go through and they're more or less learning the program. So, just making sure that we can keep things within the restrictions that are set by the parents and teachers.
Oh, so there's a limitation set by parents and teachers once they finish their training?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And let's see, questions that I have. Anybody, I don't want to hog any
I
time.
do have some.
Go for it.
I don't want to.
No, you're good. Go for it.
So I just want to say that we all know that early intervention is a huge, big golden egg of parents as teachers. We're able to, like you said, locate children who may have some potential delays or things that are interfering with their learning and get them services that they need, and sometimes medical services as far as hearing or speech and all of that. I also feel though that doesn't always translate into students in our preschool. So it's like, they are together, but they are also very separate entities. They don't, it's not really like a feeder program, because some of those kids, the parents as teachers program may be the only pre-education they get before they walk in
Absolutely.
kindergarten. And so, I'm always looking for ways that we can get those kids in. And we've talked about it 100 times, and sometimes you guys can tell me if there's any new developments on the fact like, that we could become like Head Start and access that government money that they get, that they are being able to be allocated if they have a job, and they get money that they can use at daycares or whatever. Like, how can we make it to where we can get those kids in school and their parents can use some of that funding to help pay? I know that's something you have explored before, we talked about it before, and I'm sure you're still looking into it. So if you ever get any new developments on that, I'd love to hear about it. The other thing I wondered was, and maybe jumping ahead a little, but if we're not gonna have summer program because we didn't have enough interest, which, I mean, there's nothing you can do if the interest wasn't there. Is there any way we could lease out the space? Is there anybody that maybe would be interested in using the space for the summer, that we could maybe generate some funds by leasing out the space?
Yeah, that would just fall under our regular facility use guidelines, so anyone that wants to
I
propose.
mean, I wonder if like Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts.
Girl
or-
Scouts and Boy Scouts, you actually have to allow space, so you cannot charge Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts.
No charge for them. But I mean, like if they were gonna do like a summer camp. They
Can't
don't,
charge Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts. There's some kind of
well, they have
legislation.
their own camps, but I mean, if they
Oh,
wanted
yeah.
to do something for little guys. I don't know, I just didn't know if there were any.
But if a
children.
private organization or something wanted to do that, yes, they could rent out our facilities.
I mean, I was just trying to think of a way we could maybe generate some funds over the summer that could help. And then, that was basically it.
I have a question. Do you know how other preschool programs are going right now? Is it just lack of interest because more parents are working from home, or what have you seen?
Most of the districts that are part of our directors / parents and teacher supervisors meetings and, groups that we connect with, they are also dealing with the same types of, just trying to get the families enrolled. Lots of families are just now going back to the workforce if they've been home. Some families have lost jobs, so it's many different circumstances that families are facing. But I do know that other programs are facing the same, not only the financial issues, but the enrollment issues as well. Any other questions that we can address? Well, I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. We know you're always looking for ways, we know.
Thank you, Amy.
You're welcome.
All right, 2.03, the 2021, 2022 preliminary budget. This is Susan Dawson.
Thank you. I wanted to give you an idea of where we are right now with the budget for next year, and then also get any of your input that you might want to see for our final budget next month. So looking at the kind of the highlights of the finances, revenue is projected to go down $7 million next year, but the majority of that is because of that 2020 bond refunding. If I take that out of the mix, our revenue is looking at an increase of $81,000 at this point. Expenditures, again, that $7 million decrease. And if I exclude that, expenditures are projected to increase about 49 million. Fund balance, I'm anticipating will end this year at 23%, and next year at this time we would end at 23% as well. And just for reference, CPI in December 2020 was 1.4%. Revenue. Total revenue budget for next year at this time is $14 million. The property taxes are projected to increase $329,000. Property taxes is where we have the majority of our funds. And I'm using that 9% AV increase, and a 96% collection rate. Preschool, right now I'm projecting $70,000 for preschool for this current year. So the increase here, that should say 521. The current projection is $34 million more, $34,000 more than current estimate. Predicting a decrease in VIP because of our decline in students. We're having more graduate than we have coming in next year. State revenue, again, most of our revenue is based on our weighted average daily attendance, and we've seen a decline in our student attendance the last couple of years. We're funded on the best of the current year estimate or 2 previous years. So this estimate is based on the last year, 2 previous years ago. And federal, this time I don't have any CARES money in the budget projection. So we're looking at a decrease based on that. And we've talked about this a lot before, but here we can see how our assessed valuation has increased over the last several years. And when the assessed valuation increases, we know that the tax rate decreases, so that we kind of maintain that level of funding. Just an overview of revenue by source. And 89% of our revenue comes from local sources. The next biggest pot is state, followed by federal, I believe. On the expenditure side, again, that $14.2 million. Looking at increase in salaries and benefits of $31,000 at this time. We had a lot of savings from employee turnover this year that we're anticipating. And we did budget for salary improvements for the existing staff. Purchase services, predicting that they're going to increase quite a bit. We had a lot of savings this year in our Chartwell's contract because of the reduced offerings and so forth. And then also we had some savings in our SRO contract. And a couple of other budget items. Supplies, I'm predicting a decrease. We did a lot of one-time purchases. We bought new desks, we bought computer devices, we bought these cameras, we bought, I think we put cameras in almost every classroom we had to. So those things we won't have to do next year because we've done them this year. And same with the capital outlay. And then the bond refunding is on that other line. So here you can see that 70% of our budget is salaries and benefits. And then our debt service, which is those principal and interest payments that Lorenzo was talking about, is the next big chunk in the green, and then purchase services and supplies. Just looking at general and teacher funds, the forecast for this current year, just under $12 million revenue, just under $12 million for expenditures, for a net surplus of about $19,000, and the ending fund balance predicted at 23%. Next year, basically the same thing, $12 million expenditures and revenue, and about a 23 million or 23% fund balance. Any questions at this point, or any things you want me to consider for next month?
Yeah, that's very helpful.
And then as we, I'll update the early childhood revenue, preschool revenue certainly as we get more enrollment in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, I guess, do you have any questions, comments for Mrs. Dawson? All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
We're gonna go to 2.04, the public comments. I know we had a few of those. Dr. Dilch is going to read those this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Picker. We have 4 public comments this evening. The first is from Hannah Winfield. Hannah's comment is, my name is Hannah Winfield, and 2 of my 3 children have gone through the Valley Park Early Childhood Program. I cannot say enough good things about each educator my children have had and the honor of being taught by, or the amazing educational program it is. They have learned so much. It would be a tragedy for the excellence of this program to be hindered in any way. Both of my children have been in the Wonder class. Here's an example of how amazing these educators are and how much of an excellent program Valley Park has. In 2020, when the world shut down, I was terrified my son, who was headed to kindergarten, would fall behind. Ms. Jill made a calendar for him with educational activities outside of the one the Valley Park Early Childhood Program provided that he could complete at the end of each week. She would drive to our house and drop him off a prize. Who does that? Amazing teachers. Valley Park Early Childhood, Ms. Jill specifically showed up for my child when all of his normalcy was stripped to say, we're still here and you're still going to learn. She drove to our house every week when she did not have to, but she cared about my child and the long-lasting skills preschool/early childhood education provides. I could share 1,000+ more positive things about the Valley Park program. It is something special, and I'm hoping my youngest son will have the same opportunity to have such exceptional programming to attend. Our second comment is from Angie Long. Angie writes, our daughter Rylan is in Mrs. Jill's class. I cannot even begin to express our love, appreciation, and respect for always going above and beyond to Jill and Mandy. As some of you know, Rylan has a long list of medical issues, including a history of seizures and strokes. And Jill has given her all to help assist and make sure that Rylan has succeeded in school this year. She has been a shoulder for myself and always listened to our concerns regarding Rylan and doing everything possible to make sure she didn't fall behind. Assisted with transitions with different therapists, making time for some to be in her room, all while making sure all the other children get the most of each lesson as well. She has taken out her time, her personal time, to attend Zoom meetings to put her IEP in place and 504 plans in place. Jill is an absolute godsend, and Valley Park is lucky to have such an amazing teacher like her. Our third comment this evening is from Renee Dudding. Dear Valley Park School Board members, after seeing and hearing about many changes taking place in and at the Valley Park Early Childhood Center, I felt it necessary to share why I feel that the early childhood program specifically at Valley Park is invaluable and vital to the success of our children's education. Researchers have debated for years over the benefits of early childhood education. The results prove time after time that children who attend an early childhood program are better prepared for kindergarten and therefore make the transition into school life with greater ease. Not only are the benefits visible in the amount of knowledge a student has going into kindergarten, but also through specific instruction on social and emotional play, students are more well equipped to handle the changes of a school day. I can also attest that not all early childhood programs are the same. Children who come into early childhood programs have already started developing strengths and weaknesses through their everyday experiences. This is a huge benefit to the other children in their classes. Through play, games, music, and focused instruction, children can retain the information and be more ready for higher learning, as well as build from the diversity in their classrooms. The Valley Park Early Childhood Program is a program that I believe in. Both of my children attended the program. At the time we enrolled our son, we did not live in the Valley Park School District. We lived in Afton and brought him every afternoon. It was after our experience with the Valley Park Early Childhood Program and Mrs. Peggy Witt that we decided to move to Valley Park. Most recently, our daughter attended last school year. She enrolled in Miss Jill Elder's class from 2017 to 2020. Jill created engaging lessons, creative learning units about science. She exposed her students to different languages and taught them to dance and sing. Little did my daughter know she was learning the entire time. When COVID ended my daughter's last year in Jill's class early, Jill took the time to email us specific activities to work on. She took the time to mail us cards, and she checked in on us almost daily. My daughter will be finishing kindergarten this year. She will be finishing this year reading at level F. This accomplishment is credited to my daughter, her current teacher, and also Jill. Jill took the extra step to make sure she knew her kindergarten sight words and was beyond prepared for screening day. Words cannot express the value that Jill has brought into our daughter's life. Jill has shaped and created a lifelong learner, and for that, we will always be grateful. I hope that you take that into consideration, the value of the early childhood program has to offer Valley Park and the surrounding communities, and keep the program going. And our fourth public comment this evening is from Pricey Jensen. Pricey writes, I'm addressing you tonight as a community stakeholder, a parent of 3 school-age children, an early childhood educator of 20 years, and an advocate for early childhood education. I am writing tonight to share with you why I feel it's essential for the Valley Park School District to have a thriving early childhood center with a variety of programs and services. In recent years, extensive research has given insight into the importance of early childhood education. From the time a child is born until they start kindergarten, there is critical brain development. This time in the child's life is so much more than just growing up by inches and pounds. Research has shown that children that participate in early childhood programs are more prepared for kindergarten, less likely to repeat a grade, more prepared academically for later grades, have a love and enthusiasm for lifelong learning, develop lifelong social skills, and are more likely to become high earners in the workforce. I could speak to the benefits for hours. However, there is something that I feel is more significant impact than just reading research. A personal story. A story of success, a story of connections and relationships, and a story that is proof of the powerful impact of early intervention. When my husband and I purchased our first home in Valley Park, we did not know anything about the Valley Park School District. After we had our first child, Parker, we enrolled in the Valley Park Parents as Teachers program. As new parents, we were reassured during our visits that our baby was meeting milestones and given helpful age-appropriate activities to do with our child. When we attended our first PAT event, it was impressive to see so many families in attendance. The elementary cafeteria was overflowing with children and parents. We look forward to our home visits and group activities. This is where we first began to consider what we may want to send Parker to Valley Park for school. As Parker was nearing age 3, it was becoming more obvious that Parker was not progressing and had to speak only as if he was our echo. Just days before Parker's 3rd birthday, we sat in a neurologist's office, and in about 10-minute summation, we're told Parker had strong characteristics of individuals on the autism spectrum and sent on our way to navigate an unknown journey. Our parent educator literally held my hand and supplied tissues to dry my tears as we discussed referral possibilities for First Steps and SSD. She made calls and was instrumental in getting our referral for testing to SSD. She wasn't just there for Parker, she offered support to our entire family. At our first IEP meeting, she offered to come and sit next to me for moral support. I will be forever grateful. Parker will be completing 6th grade tomorrow. When he started at Valley Park preschool in the special education room, he was unable to communicate with teachers and peers. He was inflexible to the 100th power. He struggled to transition and often would have emotional meltdowns that were impossible to understand. His preschool experience was beyond amazing, and he made improvements a little at a time. We were also supported as a family, as many days were a struggle for all of us. He has improved his language skills immensely. He will engage in spontaneous conversations. He can advocate for himself. He seeks opportunities to engage with peers, and he is thriving academically. Just today, a teacher who has worked with him since kindergarten described his growth as more confident and self-assured, able to roll with the punches and trust himself and those around him that things will be okay. His journey is not over, and we expect more growth and success as he continues at Valley Park. I'm 100% convinced, had we not had the support of our parent educator and the interventions put in place preschool and the amazing staff at Valley Park Elementary, we would be telling a different story. Our other 2 children have both attended the Valley Park preschool. I cannot put into words how amazing their experience has been. Preston spent a year with Miss Witt and Miss Karen. Preston was also enrolled in the extended care program. He was our first to attend an all-day program. Miss Debbie was phenomenal. We were so thankful to have an aftercare option. It would not have been possible for Preston or Emmeline to attend the outstanding preschool without extended care options. Our baby Emmeline will be finishing her last day at the Early Childhood Center tomorrow and headed to kindergarten. She was first in Miss Melissa and Miss Lorraine's class and loved every minute of her time with them. During the school closures, they were committed to continuing to provide meaningful learning opportunities, even from a distance. This year, she's been in Miss Jill, Miss Mandy, and Miss Debbie. I wish you could hear her talk about her school days. It is clear all of these teachers have made a huge impact on her life. My heart is filled with happiness for her and my eyes filled with tears for our time with these most amazing people coming to an end. They're not only teachers to us, they will forever be part of our family and our memories. Valley Park Preschool is not just a daycare drop-off or babysitting service. The preschool is a place where children are encouraged to explore, relationships are built, students are loved, and where a love of learning is started. The personalized experience each child receives sets us apart from any other program or daycare I have observed. I'm not the only one with a story to tell. There are others in the community, members and past families and present, that stand as evidence that we have right here in our community is a gem. Our time at the center is complete, but there are so many more children that need to have their story at the Valley Park Preschool start. As a community stakeholder, I want to be part of the community that offers high quality education for children from birth and beyond. I want to share with new families that are considering living in Valley Park that we have an amazing parents and teacher program with free activities, screenings, and a network of parents that become friends. If we do not have a established and well-run program such as Parents as Teachers, preschool with flexible schedules, and aftercare options, we will not be as appealing to young families with children. I believe in the power of early childhood education, and I've committed to volunteer to help promote our program and boost our enrollment. I encourage our community, the Valley Park School District staff, and our school board to find one person, one family, neighbor, or coworker, and share something positive about the program. We need to market our excellence. Tonight, you will be discussing agenda item 2.02, early childhood update. You not only have the responsibility to make financially sound decisions, but also to make decisions that move our district forward. Education is competitive, and where you send your kids to school has become an important factor where our families choose to live. Our community needs a strong PAT program with resources, activities, and screenings. Our community needs a preschool with flexible options to meet the needs of a variety of families. I ask that when listening to the update and discussing possibilities for our early childhood center, you think about the lives that have been made better by their experience within our district and how many more we can reach. Think critically about how we can best reach as many children and families as possible. Choose a direction that does not limit who may have access to our programs.
I think we can see that the program is obviously not just about finances. That is what we talk a lot about, but it means a lot to this community, and it means a lot to the especially those who have gone through it. So I thank all the people that took time to write in and make a public comment, and I hope to reach out to each one of them soon. But again, thank you for those that made comments, and continue on with our meeting. I'm going to make a motion for the approval of the agenda. Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay, and all those in favor?
Aye.
We have an agenda. I will make a motion to approve our consent items 4.01 through 4.06. That's the approval of the regular session minutes from our April 21st meeting, the approval of the check register for May, the approval of the election results, the approval of photography services, the approval of the 2021 through 2023 AVBCO second shift custodial service agreement, and 4.06, the obsolescence of baseball uniforms. Does anybody need to pull anything out? Okay, I will make a motion to approve the consent items. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? All right, with that, I will make a motion to adjourn to executive session. Can I have a second?
Second.
All right, we'll begin with a roll call with Faye,
Aye.
Nicole,
Aye.
Adam.
Aye.
Pete,
Aye.
Del.
Aye.
Lisa.
Aye.
And I as well. Thank you all so much for joining us. Hope you have a